When I dream at night, it's usually about fictional pirates conducting all sorts of wacky adventures. When Blackbeard dreams at night, he doesn't do that because he is awake. This man has never slept in his entire life, which may sound completely impossible, but that's kind of the name of the Marshall D game, because never sleeping is only one of 3 impossible abilities possessed by Blackbeard. Hello and welcome to the Grand Line Review, your source for everything One Piece. My name is Liam and I have 3 possible abilities. The first of which is standing upright, the second of which is making a very possible bolognese, and the third is informing you about fictional pirates. One of which is Blackbeard. Well, sort of. There was a Blackbeard in real life as well, and in fact that Blackbeard in question happens to be Eiichiro Oda's favorite historical pirate, which is why Blackbeard, whose real name was Edward Teach, has served as inspiration for no less than 3 One Piece characters. We obviously have Marshall D. Teach, but also Edward Newgate and even Thatch, each of whom take their names from arguably the most famous real-life pirate to have ever existed. It's also interesting that Blackbeard ended up killing 2 of his fellow namesakes and stole a devil fruit from both of them. It's almost like there's some sort of painstakingly planned connection here. 3 Blackbeards, each alike in dignity, except for this one, who is a traitorous murder hippo. But lurking underneath the dense chest hair, the thick blubber, and partially digested cherry pies, is one very sinister secret that allows Blackbeard to fool the world. But there will be no fooling. Black Crow, Super Llama, and Business Elmo, all 3 of whom have achieved enlightenment via the act of subscribing to the Grand Line Review, which will result in consistent injections of One Piece culture being administered directly into your YouTube feed. And if you'd like to be our next subscriber of the day, then hit the button and please do say hi in the comments below if you are a new member of the Grand Fleet. Welcome! Alright, so we've always known that Blackbeard was a little but when things truly got out of hand was the Odin Flashback. Upon meeting Roger, the Whitebeard inspired by Blackbeard engaged in a spat of punch fighting, as did their respective crews. However, during this time, a young clownlet noticed something very suspicious about a boy on Whitebeard's crew. I heard he didn't sleep a wink during the ceasefire last night or the night before. They say he's never slept in his life. To which Red Nose's red-headed associate replied, "What? Is that even possible? Lucky guy. I bet his life has been twice as fun." And yes, we can confirm that Blackbeard's life has been chock full of fun. Due primarily to this image we have of him as a child staring up at the moon and lamenting the entire nature of his sad existence. This picture, by the way, very, very important. It's far from a random drawing and we'll get to why in a bit. But for now, there's something particularly sinister about a person who doesn't sleep. But more importantly, who told Buggy about this? All we currently have is the word they, which I imagine is referring to the Whitebeard pirates, who certainly do know a fair chunk about this fair chunk of a crewman. Information that we will unfortunately have to skip a few decades to get to, courtesy of Marco the Manbird at Marineford. That's true for normal humans, but as you know, Teach isn't normal. His body is odd. Maybe that explains it. It being the whole using multiple devil fruits thing, which is another of Blackbeard's 3 impossible powers, of which there are many potential explanations for. It could be his darkness logia cancelling out the deadly results of ingesting a devil fruit salad. It could also be a special Zoan fruit that grants him funky bodily properties, like say the 3-heart Kraken theory. Or it could be this so crazy but so good idea. But first, because Blackbeard has trouble sleeping, I asked all of the Grand Fleet members to provide him with a bedtime story to send him off into sleepy bye-bye land. And this wistful tale comes from a user by the name of, still thinking of a name, Booze, Women, Cherry Pies. Marshall D. Teach, the king of the pirates, obtained these and everything else the world had to offer. You want my treasure? Well, you can F off. The end. And I really enjoyed that story, but our restless pirate is still awake, so look, we'll try again later. The reason why he's awake, though, is very likely to do with a comparatively lesser explored idea, which I am going to label multi-beard. The idea that there is not just one Blackbeard. There are, in fact, 3 Blackbeards, or perhaps even Black-bi for plural, but probably don't Google that. We'll get to how in a second, but this is a concept that has been heavily hinted and foreshadowed since the very inception of Mr. Big Beard Man. Firstly, is Jolly Roger. I'm sure that you're all familiar with its 3-skulled nature, and Jolly Rogers in the series carry quite a bit of meaning, generally acting as a depiction of the captain. And there are only 2 Jolly Rogers in the entire series that contain more than 1 skull. The first is Blackbeard's, and the second is the Jolly Roger of the Calvin brothers, who co-captained their crew and therefore have a Jolly Roger presenting both of them as equal captain things. So if we were to follow this convention, which has been established throughout the entire series, then the Blackbeard pirates would effectively have 3 captains. I'd also like to include that Jolly Rogers are never random, and Oda generally imbues them with quite strong meaning. Another example of this is Diaz Drake's flag fiasco, which is one of the only Jolly Rogers in the series that does not contain a skull at all. And in retrospect, that makes sense because Drake, he was not a real pirate. He was just pretending. So no skull for you. Furthermore, the number 3 is quite intrinsically linked to Blackbeard in every way that Oda can seem to manage. He's usually seen sporting 3 guns. Post-time skip, he has 3 beardy, sectiony things. I'm not sure what they're called. Why do I suck when it comes to hair? But he has 3 of them. And he almost always is depicted as having 3 missing teeth. And as we explored before, Blackbeard in One Piece is already an amalgamation of 3 characters. But it goes deeper than that. Because in issue 8 of One Piece magazine, a truly shocking detail was revealed, which was the concept art for Blackbeard's 2 sisters, both of whom were quite aesthetically pleasing considering the genetic pick and mix they had to work with. These sisters were meant to be introduced on Bonaro Island, and there's even a sketch of Ace reacting to them in a manner that I would describe as internally aghast. So Blackbeard was originally also one of 3 siblings, and still might be actually. But just like an unsuspecting cherry pie caught in a black hole, we can still go deeper, because the man we know as Blackbeard is actually 3 distinctly different people. And let's see if we can send all 3 of them to sleep with our next bedtime story. Once upon a time, there was a guy named Thatch. The Yami Yami no Mi he found, oh boy, what a good catch. He tried to eat it and opened his hatch, but a beautiful guy named Teach thought this was a bad idea. So he killed this man, oh dear. He took a knife and made Thatch into Swiss cheese, so now Teach can find the One Piece, I think is how it was meant to rhyme. The end. That story came courtesy of Marx that guy. The story came from that guy. But sadly, our baby Blackbeard is still very much awake, so But surely you've noticed something a bit weird about Blackbeard's actions in One Piece. This man is a walking, talking contradiction. Simultaneously courageous yet cowardly. Powerful and fearsome, but also weak and just as ridiculous, like a clown dressed in a Kaido costume. Blackbeard also happens to be quite possibly one of the greatest strategic masterminds to have ever lived in the One Piece world thing. But then again, he's also a complete airheaded moron. He's also driven in a way that rivals Luffy, and yet he also acts like a lazy party animal driven by nothing. He doesn't make sense. No one person can have all of these things. It's too many things. So here are the 3 Blackbeards. The first one is our clueless coward. This is the more joyful, innocent unit that we first met on Jaya, the one whose life is summarized by an ongoing quest for cherry pie. This is also the incarnation of Blackbeard that managed to fool the Whitebeard pirates because, and get this, he wasn't acting. This Blackbeard legitimately believed himself to be one of their brothers, and in Whitebeard's final moments during Marineford, just as the old crescent moustache was about to kill him, this is the Blackbeard that claimed to be his son. This Blackbeard feels a lot more like an innocent bystander caught up in something that he can't control. And part of that something is our second Blackbeard, the evil, malevolent one. This is the Blackbeard who takes the utmost pleasure in unsavory activities, such as kill murder. This is the one responsible for ending Thatcher's life, as well as the one who gave this disturbingly evil look when killing Whitebeard at Marineford. Pure evil, entirely unsalvageable. However willing as he is, even this Blackbeard is lost without our third aspect, which, to put it in very basic terms, is the smart one. This is the Blackbeard responsible for orchestrating almost every major event in the first half of One Piece, as well as the one capable of implementing the strengths of the other 2 for said plans, which you can see quite clearly because the clueless coward is incapable of thinking too far ahead. He has a cherry pie for a brain, whilst the malevolent evil is overly ambitious, almost animalistic, and often leaps into situations that, were it not for a hint of fate, would very much result in his death. This is how Blackbeard can be so smart yet so dumb, so terrifyingly powerful but sometimes oddly weak and inexperienced. And now, here's how that is physically possible. After another bedtime story, that is. There once was a man named Firefist Ace who chased you across the sea. You killed him and his father and started a war with his brother, the pirate Luffy. He toppled Yonko and split the sky. His conqueror's haki will make you cry. So sleep till he finds you, for only in your dreams could you be the chosen D. That story came from Jew, and it's actually a bit of a scary story if you're Blackbeard, so I don't think that helped. But how can Blackbeard be 3 people? Well, there's a semi-popular idea that he is physically 3 different people, as in identical triplets. You know, like a prestige style scenario, and that two of them hide within the body of the one who uses the Ami Ami no Mi, implying that an entirely different person ate the Guru Guru no Mi. However, I'm not a fan of this idea because it doesn't necessarily explain our key question, which is why Blackbeard never sleeps. And there's also a thought out there that you can track Blackbeard's different physical incarnations depending on his teeth. Blackbeard's ever-changing teeth being his third impossible power. And if you think I'm joking, well, you're only half right. There are 3 broad types of Blackbeard dentistry on display in the series. His most common are the 2 missing teeth up top and 1 missing tooth down the bottom. The second most common is 2 up top and then also 2 down the bottom. And on very, very rare occasions, Blackbeard is drawn rather mysteriously with a full set of teeth. Which sounds good in theory, like a series of meticulously planned hints disguised as artistic inconsistency, but it's more than likely just inconsistency. For this video, I went through every panel of Blackbeard in the series, and there is no discernible connection to be made. And what makes this problem harder is that there aren't just 3 types of teeth. The workings of the Blackbeard mouth hole are ever-changing, and there are actually at least 9 or 10 different dental structures. Probably more, because to be honest, that's just where I stopped bothering to count. However, with that said, this shouldn't be discounted entirely. Just because I couldn't pick up on a pattern doesn't mean that Oda isn't seeding something here. Probably the biggest thing that raises doubt in my mind brain are the rare panels of the full sets of teeth, because that is a clear inconsistency. And stuff like this happens all the time, things like Zoro's scar being on the wrong eye. And there was even a time when, weirdly enough, Zoro was drawn with Luffy's chest scar. Very, very minor continuity errors basically, but the thing is, all of these errors get redrawn and fixed for the volume releases. Because One Piece, for a goofy pirate manga, does take continuity as seriously as it can. And yet, Oda has never fixed one of these Blackbeard panels despite the fact that it is obviously an error. Which makes me think, well, what if it isn't an error? What if all of this teeth business is indeed on purpose? But it's so tinfoil hat that I can't quite bring myself to get there. My personal explanation is that Blackbeard has a very purposeful design trait established by Oda, which is that his teeth are purposely randomized so as to always make him look as weird and as eye-catching as possible. Purely through the theory that it's not a design you ever have the chance to get used to because it keeps morphing into these sort of different kinds of weird toothy ugliness. But admittedly, yeah, it could be something deeper. And in regards to depth, my personal favorite thought is that Blackbeard is 3 people, but all of whom inhabit the one body. Something that we have established in One Piece with the whole Cavendish Hakuba situation, because it explains why Blackbeard never sleeps. His personalities take over the body in shifts, meaning that there is one very unlucky boy who is cursed with staying awake all night and never being able to play during the day, just as portrayed in the image of Blackbeard as a child, tortured by his fate of being forever lonely under the night sky, but also personalities that can be substituted in and out potentially at will. For example, when he was about to be killed by Whitebeard, the intelligent Blackbeard brought out the clueless coward who was genuine enough to tug at Whitebeard's heart and prevent the whole death thing from occurring, because that Blackbeard was being genuine. And also, I found this funny, but I always compare Blackbeard to a hippo, and as it turns out, hippos sleep for about 16 hours a day, which is precisely the perfect amount for a 24-hour rotation between 3 hippos taking 8-hour shifts each. But now, thanks to Hat Art Shop, we have the perfect bedtime story to finally put Blackbeard to sleep. Once upon a time, there was a pirate king. His name was not you. Get effed. The end. But this is only the beginning of this next video, because there's always more to learn, explore, and experience with this wonderful series, so I look forward to seeing you there.